No Players Online started off as a college project built on Unity and designed by Adam Pipe slash Paper Cookies on itch.io. It started off as a submission to a thing called a game jam, which is a sort of competition where developers design a game from scratch and submit it by a deadline. These jams have a prompt or a theme behind them. The jam that No Players Online was submitted to is a fascinating looking series called The Haunted PS1 back in 2019. A few months ago, there was a full game announcement made and a new demo was released on Steam. I'm always looking for weird games, so after hearing the name and watching the bizarre trailer, I downloaded the demo. This is the exact type of low-res, high weirdness that I'm looking for. I plan on talking about plenty of strange, surreal stuff like Cruelty Squad or Golden Light, but I really wanted to talk about this one first because it is the most impressive of the demos that I've been playing recently. And if I'm being honest, the other essays that I'm working on are taking forever, and this is one I can bang out in a few days. The description of the demo, paraphrased, is: you find an abandoned computer with stuff on it and decide to play around with it. Sure, I guess we can go with that. When you load in the first time, things already feel off. This red flag appears and I just stared at it for a moment until I realize I'm supposed to grab it. Starting off, you're only allowed to log on as a guest, which takes you to a screen with a few icons and options. Oh, okay, it's one of those 90s desktop simulation games. Apparently, we're in 1993, same day and time, but 31 years ago. Already, this is different than what I was expecting, and I couldn't tell you what that even was. It sort of feels like Buddy Simulator 1984, which I've played, or Hypnospace Outlaw, which I have not. The computer inside of a computer is a cool feeling, though, and while I never understand the reason why it works so well, I enjoy it immensely. So anyway, we're scrolling around, failing at Mindfriend, reading websites, and hey look, we get to download other games inside of our demo. One is the aptly named Fishing with Knives 2, where you play a demented scuba diver, and the other is a dating sim called 20 Summer Days. The first was created by an internet troll, the self-proclaimed genius and number one developer Jason D1, who insults you either indirectly through his game's manual or directly on the forums where he's lurking. The dating sim is a game that's being distributed illegally on this forum, so I needed a random key to unlock and play it. At some point during your scrolling, I get a friend request from a user named Quinwin. I accept, but went back to the internet forums to download files and play whatever was inside. In 20 Summer Days, you're playing as an overworked student who meets a girl at your school and then later by chance at a coffee shop where she's working. Leaving the coffee shop where you meet the mystery girl for the second time, you find her number on a napkin wrapped around your cup. Even though you're a very shy dude, you work up the courage to call her later on to ask her out to a friend's party. And she hesitates before laughing maliciously and calling you a dirty thief. It's true, you tell yourself. I deserve no love. I am someone who downloads illegal software. The game verifies this. You get no love, only prison. Bad ending. I'd been having so much fun reading blog posts and playing pirated games that I forgot about the friend I had made earlier, and when I checked, they were online and had even sent us a message. I've been wondering how the messenger was going to work in this game, and the answer is in a creepy-ass way. Whatever buttons you press on your keyboard to respond, a scripted message gets typed into the reply. This is one of the ways that the game gives you and then takes away agency, and it's something that I hope is recurring in the rest of the game. That's something I find tremendously scary. You choose how to interact with things in the game just for it to be ripped away from you, but not really in a bad way. It's genuinely creepy. Am I on a computer? In a computer, playing video games inside of games? Or am I a guy playing a guy who's inside of a computer playing games? You get what I'm saying, right? It's a weird feeling. Our new buddy Quinwin wants to play a game, he says, and at first our guy is rightfully a little hesitant. He tells us that he has no friends to play with online anymore and that he wants to play this alpha shooter game. It's like Capture the Flag, he says, but I only care about the kills. I'm bored of Mindfriend, so I'm gonna accept. This is the part that you see in the trailer for the game and the part I was fast-forwarding through in the introduction. Instead of the 2D graphics, you're playing a 3D first-person shooter that isn't polished, but it is well ahead of anything you've seen on this old early 90s PC. I'm pretty sure they didn't have anything like this in 1993, but I don't know, I didn't really research it. It seems easy enough in the game, just move through this odd-looking gorge and grab the flag to take back to your base. But there is no Quinn. He's supposed to be playing, but I don't see him anywhere, and we're just running around, running and grabbing flags. There's nothing to shoot, but every time we grab a flag and take it back, something in the game starts to change. Music will begin playing, and then a red light appears. It's apparent after a moment that we're being stalked by something shadowy. And our last flag delivery, the landscape stretches apart, a specter thing appears, and the game crashes. Quinn, you asshole. After the game crashes, you're directed to a page where you can put in some feedback, but you see that the game is no longer accepting these submissions, and development is stopped due to personal bereavement. If you click submit anyway, it becomes apparent that something has gone very wrong. You're given a long error string which decodes into a single repeating word, then you're kicked from the system completely so it starts to reboot. Your time as a guest has ended, and now you can log in. John's part makes up the second half of the demo. If it had ended before with the guest account section, I would have been happy if not blown away. The ideas there were interesting enough, and I was creeped out plenty. But John's part is another much more complex turning of the screw. You're given a new desktop with new stuff. You get some photos, a nicer clock, and this time when you open the messenger, there's a lot more to... Oh, look, Quinwin is a friend of ours on this instant messenger. That's neat. I guess John is one of those friends that aren't online anymore? Hard to say. Fortunately, Quinn isn't online now, and we see in the messages that the game we played with him before was created by John, the guy whose messages we're snooping through. Digging through more of his stuff, we see that he's had issues in this new version of his Capture the Flag game, which he calls CTF, and with a no-clip bug in the Gorge level. This is a super important hint that will go straight over my head. Other applications on the desktop, like this thing called Soul Transfer, and the files you need to read on it go back to research conducted in the 1960s. There are tons of new files to read, and I'll try to sum them up with zero context the same way that the game does it. Soul Transfer is used to rip souls out of games and jam them together to make new games. Rather than giving long, over-expository journal entries on the lore behind whatever that sentence meant, it gives you short progress notes, which I love. This lack of direction, though, would be a huge stumbling block. A lot of hints like that tend to go in one ear and out the other, but looking back on this footage, the hints and writing of it are really remarkable, and I just completely missed a lot of it. I opened up Soul Transfer and started seeing what could be done. I decided to experiment a little. Some stuff didn't work, but look, Fishing with Knives 2 and Mindfriend sounds like it would be a cool combination, right? Well, it fucking isn't. It makes a game, a glitching, unstable application that has you scuba diving through a minefield. If you hit mines, they send you flying, it messes your score up, and once you finally get to the bottom, nothing really happens except for this creepy floating head swims around, and it makes a weird noise and your game crashes. This became a gigantic headache, since I had no idea what I was doing. I kept trying the same thing over and over, misinterpreting a note from the logs. Eventually I gave up and looked it up, and I'm really glad that I did. Fusing together Fishing with Knives 2 in 20 summer days will give you the right application. While it still looks glitchy, it acts differently once opened, and you're greeted with another point-and-click adventure. This one is much more scary, yet simple. You take your dog for a walk by the lake and get lost in the complete darkness. The imagery is more abstract and dark, with, again, no real choices except to keep going forward presented. You get a grimy 3D look with animations rather than the cartoony anime from 20 Summer Days. Losing your dog, then the path in front of you, it doesn't ask but says you will decide to keep going. Then, once again, the game crashes and leaves you with a new application. This one looks like some stone, and its use is apparent if you've been clicking around. Soul Transfer is used, but this time for its other purpose, infusing the souls of games into John's project, the CTF beta. Running this infused version takes you again to the Gorge, but you're immediately stopped by the appearance of dialogue boxes. It is October 5th, 1974, a date I'm sure I need to keep in mind for later on. This reminds me of one of John's notes, that using Soul Transfer on these games was taking projects that had no story and giving them one. The other thing that it added was water and fish. The narration boxes become a conversation, different people talking. There's 3 of us here. Well, 4 now, including you. Another new feature of the CTF beta is the active player information. When you press tab, you see someone is in here with you, another active player. I'm pretty sure I know who it is. They politely do not make an appearance while we scramble for a hint that came around a long time ago. This part is where I got stuck by another headache, and eventually had to go back and look up the answer. There's nothing really inside of the beta that tells you how to progress. I really wish I was better at puzzles and games, but to be fair, I had no idea what's real anymore or what we're supposed to be doing. When you blow the expectations out of the water like a helpless scuba diver in a minefield, sometimes you're going to have your less shiny players land far, far from the mark. I was waiting for more dialogue options or for stupid Quinn to show up and scare me. Thankfully, there was a guide online that had other steps to follow without telling too much. Remember the no clip that never got fixed? It's over here, next to the huge blue flag that was misplaced by one of the entities in the game. I can't believe I didn't remember that single message from the messenger I had read before looking through 20 other things. But here we are at last, the part that forced me to talk about this demo. The pants-shitting terror part if you're me. At first it didn't look too scary, but as I started looking around and realizing where I am and what's in front of me, I typically don't get scared at games in general, and when something makes me uneasy to think about it later, I know it was special. I'm not afraid of water or the ocean even. I am afraid of gigantic creatures in the ocean to this day as a 30-year-old man. So sticking me in an endless sea with no shore and forcing me to swim toward that thing out there and oh god, it has that creepy face from the Minefield game. This part is literally combining nightmares, broken-ass games, and sea monsters. Okay, fine, let's just leave now. Head for the box thing. We end up in a house, to use the term loosely. Something has gone wrong with building the map, so we are left with scattered assets, and now familiar glitchiness. Staring through these panes gives you the point-and-click interaction again. This time it's almost dialogue between two people in the house. Their conversation betrays a growing distance. I don't know how to help you. They say one stays upstairs and I'm downstairs all the time. Before they can even ask, is anything I'm saying getting through to you? The dialogue cuts off. Then, more unnervingly, one asks, why are you keeping me in your work? What is this place? Before we turn and leave. We are left on a hazy red trail. Is this the path to the lake from earlier? With no choice but to move forward, we end up in front of what looks like a stone structure reminiscent of the gorge, but could be anything. A final message pops up. The game is just a window. Look within. Find me there. An enormous hand reaches out, and the entire demo finally crashes. That's it. For being a short introduction, No Players Online is dense. There's so much being said underneath the actual logs and interactive elements that I'm sure that at some point there can and will be hour-long essays on all the references, Easter eggs, and deeper meanings. It certainly deserves all of those things, and that's maybe the best way that I can sum up my experience with it. When done well, games like these pull you into their world and fixate you. That fixation is what drives the kind of unnerving voyeurism of the game. Whoever we are when we're playing No Players Online, this is not our computer or even our time. Through our curiosity, we are at first a guest, but why stop there once the paths begin to open? We assume the identity of John when we log into his account, and we begin to snoop through his personal life. As is so often the case in these titles, our protagonist, or us, depending on how you're looking at it, doesn't shut off the computer and take up something else once the horrific begins. It takes me back to the cleverly vague synopsis, which I'll paraphrase even more this time. You probably stole this haunted-ass PC from somewhere you shouldn't have been and have no business going through it. I hope that No Players Online lives up to the demo that's presented here, and I believe that it will. The developers of the game took a project that must have meant a lot to them, and that they already had the foundations laid out for, and are working to refine it into the first title released under Beeswax Games. I suppose the argument could be, and has been made, that good trailers and even good demos don't always pan out to be great games, though the trick that No Players Online pulls is one that I can't help but have confidence in for the full release. When you are constantly subverting the expectations of the players, you're going to have a few people that are disillusioned quickly, but a probably very happy niche of gamer who, like me or our guests, can't help but keep digging. Thank you for watching.